We're learning the 10 Commandments together. For many of you, you haven't memorized them, as of course I didn't do as growing up. We had them in the book, so why would we memorize them? And then a lot of you, growing up, especially if you're Church of Christ, Southern Baptist, or anybody in between, you probably were like, well, we memorized those when we were 5. Like, okay, well, impressive. I didn't, I'm sad. But to get everybody kind of on one page this morning, I thought it would be helpful for us to really take this time to learn them, memorize them. And the best way that I do that is with a song. And so I thought it'd be helpful if we learned it with a song and hand motions. So that's just fun. So would you stand where you are? We're going to continue. Let's see. Don't take my name in vain. Yeah? Yep. All right, so you want to sing it through once?
So, he's got a collar on. What?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
I didn't see this.
This, right? Did I just startle you with this? You didn't see it earlier?
I didn't know Pancho made that.
Sponsored by Pancho. We'll get to that. Sorry. We'll get to that. Right. So that's all right. So we're going to sing. I mean, it's really funny, though, the awkwardness that's here. Just from this right here. I don't know if there's Catholic community in with us or something, but it's something's going on.
All are welcome here, Scott.
Yeah, all are welcome. Thank you very much. All right, this is the 10 Commandments song. We have hand motions to go with it, just so you remember. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of slavery. Have no other gods before me. And then this morning, of course, is don't take my name in vain. Right, just shaking your head, like don't put his name out there in the world in a way that, right? Does that make sense? Okay, that's how we'll do it. You ready? We'll sing it twice, just because I believe in you. Also, clearly we need clapping lessons. We might need some Aggies to do cheer practice for us up here so we can clap and sing at the same time. Our percentage was very low earlier, but we'll do this. You ready? Here we go. We need everybody. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of slavery. Have no other gods before me. Don't take my name in vain. That's good. All right. Yeah. Killed it. Yeah. Very good. Everybody go ahead and have a seat. That was a beautiful job. Thank Nathan, who is such a great sport. Appreciate everything. So good morning. My name is Scott Heare. I get to be one of the pastors here and the preaching and teaching pastor this morning. So I'm just grateful to be with you. Love this series. I've just been learning just tons and reminded of even more. And it's just been fantastic. So I'm grateful that you're here. One of the things that we've been talking about is kind of the way they go. So just to catch everybody up, the word commandment actually is not in Exodus 20, which is where we get these 10. It doesn't exist. In fact, the word that we translate commandment is actually called proclamation. What I loved is earlier this morning somebody said, hey, I checked you out on that. And I'm like, good, bring that. I'm ready. And I study a ton. So he said, and you're right. And I was like, wow, you should just repeat that. Let me record that. I would like to have that for regular use. But he said, yes, because it doesn't actually say commandment. It's not something that's been put on us by God. It is a proclamation. Remember that what God is doing here is he's taking a slave nation and teaching them the framework and structures to live a free life. That's what's happening. And so it's really helpful for us because the truth is, if we're honest, whether it's by sin or expectation or however we see it, we're also sort of enslaved by things. And so what God wants to do is come in and say, okay, look, I get it, but we need to move you out of that and into freedom. Because I can't really have my people living enslaved if I'm going to try to free the whole world. I need you. So let's go. It's kind of an encouragement, but it's also a little bit of work. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the picture. So he says, the first thing, the proclamation is not do something. The first thing is our relationship. I'm the Lord your God who brought you out of slavery. Be reminded that all those gods that were in Egypt, that were attached to every tiny thing that you did, that you were supposed to associate your allegiance to, your alignment with, and bend a knee to, those are no longer important to you. The power that they held over you is over. And a part of what I hope for this morning is that there are things, words in particular, that are lording over you, that are resonating, echoing in your mind and your heart, that are enslaving some piece or part or all of you, that we can say, that's an old day, those are old gods, those are unimportant, uninteresting, and we can move out of that. I'm going to hope and pray right now, and I'll ask our prayer teams, and I can see you out there, please pray that that's happening this morning amongst people. That you'll start to think of the words that your father said, that the teacher said, that the coach said, that the employer said, that the spouse said, that rise up, it's going to bother you. But that's going to be the thing we're going to leave. We're going to leave that on the desert floor today, okay? So that's the picture. So God comes and says, I love you enough to come and get you into slavery when all you could see was slavery. And then pull you out into the desert to teach you how to be the people that you're called and created to be. It's wild to me. If you look, you can see that it would take about a week to walk from Egypt to the promised land. It takes them 40 years, right? And again, that's because it's easier to get the Hebrews out of Egypt than to get the Egypt out of the Hebrews, which is the same for us. It's the work we continue to do. It's the picture that we're chasing down. So God comes and says, the first proclamation is, I'm God and I love you, which we can hear echoed in Jesus' own heart. The second is simple. All those gods, they're unimportant. In fact, whenever you make anything the center of your life that is not me, that's idolatry. And it's not like it says God is jealous, things like that. All God is trying to do is to say, look, focus on love, focus on what gives life. Don't focus on the things that are going to tear you apart, that are going to drag you and distract you. Remember, we talked about, we know that we're kind of in idol worship, and it's such a formal thing to say, but it's true. We know that we're in idol worship when the things that we're doing make us smaller, more rigid, more fragile, more afraid. And when God is at the center, we're more loving, we're more open, we are stronger, we are capable. You can feel that flow in your regular life. And one of the things to do is to stop and say, hey, where is my focus right now? I'm trying to get my way. Am I trying to align a particular way or thing? Or have I decided that God is at the center of this, and that's where my heart and my hope are? So we move out of idolatry, we work on it. It's tough, right? And then this morning, don't take my name in vain. You know, when I was growing up, there was this phrase that said, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, that was a lie, wasn't it? Like that was terrible. Like, who actually decided that was a good idea to say to children? Like that's, like, especially when you're a kid, like, were they not around? Were they never children? Who said that? Like, I know what they were trying to do. I know what the hope is like, these are just words. And I'm like, yeah, but words, right? You ever notice that God creates the world with words? And God said that it's actually the spoken thing in the Bible over and over and over, that when God speaks something, it's creative life into the world. And then wildly, we get included when God says, hey, Adam, and it's appropriate levels, categories. God creates the world and he says, hey, Adam, let's name some animals. And he's like, okay, giraffe, and that's our level. But still, our words have power. Still, our words have authority, especially as we move out in the name of God. So it's a powerful reality, words, and the words that have been said over you, the words that have been said over me. Like, what we're called to do is take the words of life and let them weave into us and leave the words that are of death behind. And in my opinion, here's how that affects this scripture this morning. When I was growing up, do not keep the Lord's name out of your mouth. Like the Lord's name in vain picture was much more how you said bad words. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, don't say that bad word. Or don't say, it's really funny, I almost said JC, like saying Jesus Christ is bad where I'm standing right now. Isn't that weird? So, right? But you don't want to say that inappropriately, one way or the other. Like, these are words that you should be really, really careful with. And so when I was a kid, I was, Well, I'll just tell it to you this way. It was really hard for the church to find Sunday school teachers for my group. And then I was in a very formal setting, and so we had acolytes, and the acolyte's job was to walk down the middle aisle at the beginning of the service and light the candles on either side of the altar. And they wore robes. And weirdly, also, for the 3 years that my group was supposed to be acolytes, they decided to cancel the acolyte experience just for those 3 years. And we didn't even realize it until we were older, and we were like, hey. And then we were, okay, that's probably a good call. Yeah, us and fire wouldn't have been good either, right? It was a little pack of us, one way or the other. So I remember when we learned this particular, we at the time called the Commandments, the proclamations, this was about the worst of the bad words. Don't say these words. And of course, being us, we hit the stinking parking lot, and we were like, bang, we're hitting these words. Like, these are the first words we're going to say because they have more power than any of the other words. So that was we were really hardcore. You can really say this stuff, right? Now, to be honest, today, those are the hardest for me to hear. It's just really rough. Hardest for me to, one way or the other. But the reality is, while all of that's true, we should be really careful with God's name and how we use it and all those things. That's really maybe the smallest version of this proclamation. Maybe the lightest touch. This proclamation is profound. Here's the thing. When God brings those Hebrews out of Egypt and into the desert, and he's teaching them how to live free, he also is doing something that's incredibly important, and it travels from those ancient places to us this morning. And it's this. They were now his people in a way that no other people really had been before. Imagine this. Imagine that you are one of the greatest nations of all time, and so much of your world is baked on these kind of slave systems that have been a part of a lot of different cultures, but was definitely a part of Egypt. And then, right in the middle of all of that, this amazing and profound God shows up, and he picks on each one of the gods that are the most important God. The top 10 gods of the Egyptian pantheon get removed one at a time until you get all the way to Ra, the sun god, Pharaoh himself, and the air is the one that goes. It is a profound dismantling of a system. It is a profound destruction of a way of belief, and it happens immediately. It's the only known historic reality for a slave nation to be set free without that slave nation having any violent revolt. They walked out. And Egypt was never the same. Because of that, as you can imagine, those people were the people of that story. Those people were that God, that Hashem, you'd say in Hebrew. Carefully, you'd say Yahweh, because we're talking about it this morning, right? Those are his people that are out there in the desert. Who are those folks? Those are the slaves that left Egypt, that dismantled the system. Those are the people whose God is greater than all the gods of Egypt. And they're out in the desert. What are they doing? I think they're trying to figure out how to live. We're terrified they may move. We hope they stay in the desert. Right? So God knows that they carry his name. Jesus does the same thing. You'll be the people of my name. He talks about how we're going to be walking in his footsteps, how we're going to be doing things that are even greater in his name. Jesus picks up all of this work, and so it rises in me this kind of folding in of recognizing that what's actually happening is much greater than kind of the worst cuss words. Like, what's actually happening is that we are the people that hold God's name and the mantle of his authority in the world. Like, that's who we actually are. When we walk out into the world and proclaim ourselves as Christians, then the world looks to see, okay, show me what Jesus looks like. So for a year, my wife and I had a beautiful opportunity. We were just graduated from seminary, And we were invited to go to England. And in England, I got to be the pastor of 4 churches. I preached in 12. And then had kind of a fun experience of being throughout the country. We had an incredible time. It was really forming for us. But one of the things that they told me before we left was, oh, and by the way, all the pastors in England, Baptist, Methodist, Anglican, they all wear collars. And I thought, collar? You mean like a nice shirt? And they're like, no, like a priest collar. I'm like a what? And they're like, yeah, you're gonna wear a priest collar. I'm like, no, I don't think I am. Like, no, that's actually what they do. So you'll need to get the shirt and the little thing. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound like as much fun as it seemed like earlier. Like, let's not do that. And they said, no, this is what you're gonna do. And so I did that. I went and I bought the shirt, which I had to buy a short sleeve, of course. And then I put the thing in, and I was a youth pastor, so there was 30 kids playing basketball in the church. And I decided to see what reaction I would get. So I threw the door open to 30 kids, and they just burst out laughing. It's like this is the funniest thing they'd ever seen. But I'll tell you what happened. I was 26 years old, 27, somewhere around there. And I'm walking through the city and the village of all the different places that we were a minister, and I wore this collar. And it was wild. I remember one morning somebody said, "Good morning, Father." And I didn't respond at all, because I was like, that's so weird, is what I wanted to say. Everything went off in my head. And then I realized I just ignored that person. That was being kind, right? So from then on, as a 27-year-old, good morning. And I never threw my child out there, because often these people were twice my age, and so that was always really weird. But they would ask me for blessings. They would ask me for all this other kind of stuff, because they just didn't know that wasn't my tradition. And so that was a part of the process. But it got kind of wild really quick. Let me tell you what happens when you wear a collar like this. That is, when you drive and someone cuts you off, you're like, hope you have a better day, instead of what you might say, right? Or this happened 3 times while we were there. It wasn't me, I wasn't doing it, I promise. But 3 different times in the store, the grocery store, somebody fell or kind of pulled up against the shelves a little bit. And there was crowds around them. And here's what happens. If somebody falls down, this first one was by the counter, so all these people are checking out. This lady falls to the ground. She just kind of went down. And we were all standing there looking at her, and I was like, oh no, just like everybody else, except for this is what happens. If I'm standing here and she falls there, and all these people are here, they look like this, and then they all look at me. Every one of them. They're like, oh, she fell. Oh, good, the priest's here. It's just like that. And of course, the other part of it is you think to yourself, oh gosh, I have to respond. I am right now, the expectation is, how will Jesus's people respond? That there's no kind of filter for it. And so you're right down there and you're trying to help, and she needs something to drink, can somebody help her up? You do this kind of normal stuff, right? Quickly. But very fast, if you're wearing this, your expectations for behavior, driving, everything completely changes. Because of that, I have an open offer. I believe that every single Christian, especially in this city, should wear this collar for at least 24 hours. Do your whole life like this, because it will shape everything you do. It is one of the greatest spiritual disciplines you could pull off. And if you're wondering, well, is that legal? Turns out they don't ask you even for an ID when you put this thing on. Isn't that crazy? For real. So weird. But imagine what it would be like to live your life this way. Just a second. Do the drop-off lane right now. Dropping the kids off, waving at the teachers. Their eyes will get a little bigger, I promise. The other kids get in the car. Hey guys. You're going to work, right? You show up at work. You have a meeting. You come on the Zoom call. Hey guys. Whoa. When did that happen, How about if you're in an argument with your wife and you're in the middle of the kitchen and you turn to her and you're like, I think I need a minute. Right? I mean, how are you gonna? Here's the thing. Not having God's name in vain may be as simple as imagining that you're wearing this. Who are you in the world? How do we act and react? How do we think of ourselves? What authority do we hold? The truth is, if you wear a cross, you should feel as intense about that as this. Or on the back of your car, a little fish. Anything. I'm a little bit disturbed by watching social media, how many people have a little cross or a fish in their social media, and then I'll read their threads and I think, well, that's embarrassing. I better not continue. Right? The world is looking to see who we are. I don't wear this every day anymore. Sometimes I think it would be a good idea for me to. So words, right? Words are important. If you were wearing this in your imagination, right? Maybe it changes the way that you talk to your children. Maybe since now it's not your dad or you are Scott or whatever it is, you are a representative of Christ first. Maybe the first thing that you could do with your kids is look for the good. You know, one of the great parenting tools and techniques that Kathy and I ever learned was, like, look at the heart of what's happening right now. Is what happening coming out of fear? Could we become people that respond more than we react? When we're at work and we have things that are going on and it gets a little tense, are we the people that amplify that intense? You know, every human being is an amplifier. You either amp things up or you amp things down. Which one are you? Do you go in and somebody says, you'll never guess? You're like, ooh, tell me, I gotta know. Or are you like, you know what? I've got enough drama in my life. I don't really need to borrow somebody else's. But I will just generally pray for everything, right? I want to be loving, I want to be hope-filled. It's hard to listen to the gossip. You know, so here's this picture, like, can we be these people? Can we look for good? I was lucky enough to have a father that blessed me with words for 6 years in my wallet. I carried a little Post-it note around that said in his handwriting, I'm very proud of you, Dad. I don't even remember why he gave it to me. He probably wouldn't either. He just found the best in me all the time. He still does. That's Christ-like to me. My dad was like Jesus. I'm very proud of you. It makes you change the way you are. To respond, ooh, I can hear you're upset. Let's figure out why. Not react. Don't talk to me like that. Right? We change our words. Super important. Not easy. And then, of course, our actions. As much as we say, and I hope we say a lot, right? Valuable. As much as we say, the world will watch what we do. What we do. We have to take action about the change in the world. We have to actually do things that shape and change it. And if you wonder, like, well, what can I do? Usually what's right in front of you. But there will be opportunities that come. Someone falls in the grocery store. That's you. Someone's child gets lost. That's you. Someone's hungry. It's you. Someone's sad. That's you too. Or it's at least you helping them find someone if you're not in that space, right? What we can't be as the people with his name on us is to be the people of silence. We have to be the people of action. So, Sunset Ridge, what will our actions be? What will our town, our city think when they hear those words? There is always the desperate fear of every pastor, every church leader, to say, if your church disappeared off the face of the earth this week, would anyone miss it except the people that attend? And if that's true, there's some work to do. So to finish this morning, all of the words that I think we're called to hear, all the people that we're called to be, the community that we're supposed to form, God calls us into the desert to say, follow me and I will set you free. And in that freedom, you will show the world what it looks like to live fully into yourselves. And that will change the entire world. One breath, one heartbeat, one life at a time. Imagine this room changing one life, everyone, 10, 5, 10, 20. Powerful stuff and real.